Hi, I'm Larry Hoffer, AIAS's Executive Director, and I am all up in my feelings today because I'm going to be talking with our National President, Cooper Moore, and our National Vice President, Nicole Bass, about the last month of their term and looking back on their year as president and vice president. It seems unbelievable that we're in that home stretch. So really quickly, Cooper, how does it feel to hear that?
Feels lots of ways. It doesn't feel like it's been a year some days, or at least some hours of every day, but then other hours in the day, it does feel like it's been maybe a little more than a year, but it's been a blast. It's been good. And I'm really proud of what we've done this year.
Nicole, how about you?
Yeah, definitely bittersweet feelings that come to mind when you say that. Yeah, I think for me, it doesn't feel like a year at all. Even when I like say it out loud for myself or when I'm introducing myself to others, it's like, is that a year? Are we sure? Do we want to check the time again?
So we'll start with Nicole on this one. Every person who comes into the positions of president and vice president every year, they come in with their own goals and expectations for that position. Do you think that you and AIAS have accomplished or are on track to accomplish what you hoped to when you started?
Yeah, absolutely. I say this probably in all of my board reports and my COP reports, but my biggest thing was just transparency on the process of how AIS does things and strengthening that process accordingly. So we definitely accomplished some big milestones. I always like to say that one of my favorite milestones is the fact that we attended all of our allied organizations conferences in person, which is like a big win for AIS, but also for the state of the world, thankfully. And secondly, and this like personal favorite is that we were able to partner with ACSA on sharing our faculty counselor newsletter. So, just showing that, we really have good process with, communicating things out, especially all the amazing things we do and leaning on our lovely allied organizations accordingly is just such a big win and definitely shows a good path forward on how many other things we could have joined forces on.
Thanks. Cooper, what do you think in terms of your expectations versus the reality this year?
Well, so I came into this, I think, kind of knowing a good bit of what I was getting myself into because I'd been on the board before. So I feel like I had reasonable expectations, although something that everybody learns very quickly when they join the AIAS is that they're really, reality is maybe not something that the AIAS dances very closely with all of the time. It's a pretty special place. So I think that my expectations were pretty realistic. And I think that the reality has been far better than my expectations. I think that the things we've got to say, like Nicole said, we traveled around a lot to all the different conferences. Certainly didn't expect to do because when we started, the president had not declared the pandemic over yet. And we were still in the middle of this horrific period of time. And so the expectations in that way, I think were set low, but we've been able to do lots of things. And I think that we've accomplished a number of the things that we've set out to do this year. When we did this kind of interview at the beginning of the year, we kind of laid out our goals, and I think that we've accomplished most of those goals. Even if, I think we understood at the time as much as we were capable of understanding at that time, the things that we started don't have to be finished by us this year. It's not about us doing it, it's about it getting done, whether it carries on after we're the ones to do it or not. So I think even in that way, we've made really good progress.
Great. So building on that, Were there any surprises for you, for both of you, obviously, but we'll start with Cooper. Anything that surprised you based on kind of what you were expecting in becoming the president or spending this year?
Yeah, yes, there have been a number of things that have surprised me. Even just operationally, we've had to move the office. That was a surprise. I kind of thought we had a happy home built somewhere and we were comfortably nested. And we had to uproot all of that and kind of start fresh. But that was its own fun adventure. Now we have our own space. It feels like ours, and we've been able to literally design it to our specifications, which has been cool. So that was definitely a surprise. And I think I've been surprised in the support that I have felt personally as the president in this community, but also just that I feel the AIAS receives, because we are not the largest and mightiest organization with the fullest pockets of change to spend on things. But I think that the support that we get anyway, and maybe even despite that, the things that we've been able to do have been kind of surprising in the way that people have voiced their support for us and participated in things that we've done and just really come out for us. It's been great.
Nicole, what was your biggest surprise this year?
Well, definitely plus one to what Cooper said. The moving part was definitely my biggest surprise, I guess logistically. But in terms of AIS, I was just so I really am surprised about all the immense amount of chapters that we gained this year, from high school to community college, university to international. It's mind-blowing how many students heard of us or was told about us and then jumped on the opportunity to start a new chapter with us this year. And I'm just so grateful that all of them thankfully are running proudly, one way or another, and we get to see them at our conferences. I never thought I'd have the opportunity to do that, just because, as we mentioned, the pandemic just didn't guarantee anything. So the fact that I got to start a new chapter one month and then next month see them in person at a conference is mind blowing to me. I'm forever grateful for that type of experience.
I'll be honest, the whole moving thing wasn't 100% of a surprise for me, but the whole process definitely was. So you two are not the only ones surprised by the whole thing. So we've obviously touched on it a little bit, and honestly, I think we probably could fill an entire hour talking about the highlights of your year for each of you. But can you name one or two of your sort of favorite moments or the things that you're proudest of from this year? And Nicole, you're up first.
Course. Maybe I'll go backwards. Maybe I'll split the year in half. I'll do one in the spring or one in the spring and one in the fall. The most recent one I would love to say is that I got to host a student panel with community college students and recent grads of that path at the ACSA convening in Philly. And this was a 3-year effort from my past vice presidents to the past ACSA education committee. So it was so nice to see it come to fruition and just be able to facilitate that conversation and really start up that conference with or that convening with a good realistic note of what it is to go through the community college pathway into architecture. And it's just so fulfilling to see people oh my God, Nicole, you did such a good job. Your panelists were great. They were good range. They were real, had amazing, notes to share. So that was a pretty scary but fun experience. And then in the fall semester, or the fall part, I would definitely say having our fall board meeting. We kind of had it hybrid. This, as some of you may know, is the only time that our board is alone. And we just got to spend it with our lovely board members. some, as I mentioned, some in person in DC and then some online. So it's just kind of nice of like, this is what it means to be on a board. This is what it means to be a team together for a year. And that's kind of like a special experience where we were all crammed in one conference room, but it was so nice to just, really chit chat, have the side conversations, have the power and energy come into the meeting. So yeah, those probably were my two favorite moments.
How about you, Cooper? You're on mute. So they looked like really great highlights though. You had like a very emotional face on, so hopefully you could recapture that.
I don't know if it'll recreate the raw emotion that just poured out of me, but I guess I'll do a personal and a professional highlights from the year. The personal one, I completed a year-long fellowship last fall to become a green roof professional. And I'm very proud of that because it was a lot of work. And if you know me, you know that I do not shut up about green roofs. But I'm just very grateful. Like the AIAS gave me time to study and take like the brutal 200 question exam to finish the fellowship and everything. So that felt like a big kind of accomplishment that I've been working to for a long time. And then I'm also very proud of some of the ways I've been able to represent architecture students, because it's, we have 4,000 or so members in the AIAS at the end of last year, but we represent every architecture student, whether they're a member of the AIAS or not. And so some of the rooms I've gotten to be in, sitting at some of the tables I've been sitting at, and just being able to fight for what matters to architecture students has been incredible. And I'm so proud of the ways that's been going, and seeing students also fighting for themselves and standing up for themselves and advocating for themselves in their communities has been incredible. And getting to travel and do that all over the place, like at the World Architecture Festival in Portugal last December, in San Francisco at the AIA convention, it's just been the time of my life.
Great. Well, I know, honestly, I think that it's important to note that Cooper and Nicole wanted to focus on highlights for them, and obviously working with me was a significant highlight, but it's okay. That's a whole different thing. No, AIS is tremendously unique in that the president and vice president take a year, move to DC, and work in the office as both the leaders of the board, but also as members of the staff team. How has that experience sort of been for you? Did it meet your expectations of what it would be like? Did it exceed, fall short? And what are your thoughts as you get ready in a month to leave the office? Cooper, I think you're up on this one first.
Yeah, so I think this is one of those ways that I kind of hinted at, where you can have expectations, but I don't know that anything can really prepare you for the reality, because it is very unique, like you said. And I've been feeling a little bit guilty because I'm transitioning Colt Proc, who's the next president. And I'm not entirely sure, even after doing this all year, how to prepare somebody for this. Because I mean, I can give you all the passwords and all the login information, but I don't know that I can like walk you through a typical day, because what is a typical day for us? Everything is constantly changing, and we're doing different things, and it's like very fun and fast paced. But I think, like, short of strapping a GoPro to my forehead and walking around and showing you the day, it's hard to do. So I think that it's really met my expectations, in that I think we've had a strong impact this year in kind of changing the culture of the organization and making a lot of, positive momentum in the office, and making things easier and better and more efficient. So that was something that we had all discussed at the beginning of the year that we wanted to do, and I think that in that we've done a good job. And I think that Nicole and I are now leaving pretty much where we wanted this to get to, which feels good.
Nicole?
Yeah, plus one to what Cooper said, like this was my first time like on the board. Like I haven't been on a board at all before 2022, which also is weird to say out loud. To understand that dynamic, understand Robert's rules, understand like what it means to be secretary of a meeting and working with like staff to present on things. And then being an officer and present on things is like, okay, this is a whole new world to learn and do at the same time. And then to add on being a staff member daily with the AIS was also an interesting path. We might have mentioned this previously, but we added 2 staff members throughout our term, which is always a wonderful journey to have, more the merrier. And what really was like a touch base for me was our like quarterly board meetings, but also our like biannual like staff retreats, where we were like, okay, we did 6 months, or we're planning for 6 months. How do we feel? What's the vibe? What goals do we want? So those were kind of like the hopes of like, okay, if I did 6 months, I could do another 6 months. If I did a quarter, I could do another quarter. Yeah, I tried not to have too many expectations coming in, just because I just wanted to be as open-minded as possible. And I'll definitely say it exceeded what I thought it would be like as a officer and staff member of the AIS.
Great. That's good to know. So Cooper touched on it a little bit already, but obviously both of you have been working to ease the transition for your successors, Colt and Julia. What's been the most significant piece of advice that you have given them or plan to give them before turning it all over on August 1st? Nicole?
This is probably what I say to everyone too, but especially to our incoming officers, is that it takes a team. It really does. And it's one of those things where AIS, you can't really do it alone, not because you're not strong enough or you're not passionate enough, but there's so much impact that we can have, that the more team members you have, the stronger and faster you can get it done. So to both of them, they've heard me say this a million times, so I'll say it one more time. It takes a team, including the both of you, to act as a team. So I'm excited to see what they have in store for us next year.
Coop?
Yeah, so I think that the advice that I think is most helpful, and I mean, you'd have to ask them whether or not they've found it to be so, but it's that, we cannot do all of the good that the world needs, but the world needs all of the good that we can do. Meaning, like, you will not be able to solve every problem in the AIS next year. We can solve a number of things, and we can make progress on a lot of things that need to be fixed, but there are things in the world that the AIS is not able to fix. And we can sit here in our seat above the clouds on the 4th floor of this building and hand down thundering proclamations on all kinds of issues, but it doesn't mean that we can fix everything that's wrong with the world. But that being said, the things that we can fix and the places that we can make progress on are tremendously important. And I think it's really necessary to recognize what we can do for things to make things better, and be really proud of the way that we've done those things.
Well, I think that, you said it earlier. I mean, AIS has the opportunity to impact the lives of architecture students all over the world, whether or not they're members. And that's kind of a heady responsibility, really, but also it's a good responsibility. So I think that that's something to keep in mind. I mean, heck, I think that I can't even solve all of the problems of a day, let alone, the world. So that's good advice. Switching gears a little bit to a question that, having traveled with the both of you and been around the both of you, I know you've been asked a lot, and I know that this is probably not your favorite question, but what's next after August 1st? What's next for both of you? Cooper, you're first on this one.
A good night's sleep, I think, is in order. After that, that's an excellent question. I'm currently in the process of shopping around. I'll be transparent. Got to put together a portfolio, everybody's favorite task. And I'm sure I'll find time to do that sometime between now and grassroots and planning for everything else. But I think what I'd like to be doing someday, and there's a number of places I'm looking at, is being where design and policy overlap. And those are, I think, my two great passions. So if I can somehow be influencing policy through design and through influencing design through policy, and kind of working at that intersection, I think I'd be a pretty happy guy.
Nicole?
Yeah, we definitely do get that question seemingly every day now. Yeah, I agree with Cooper to just be transparent. We are like, that's just the reality of what it means to transition out of one job to another, is to shop and to see and listen and see what firms are doing, see what projects are up for. I'll personally be moving back to New York, so you'll know where to find me. But I'm hoping to land in a firm that really respects the position I just held, and understanding the importance of these organizations and its impact in the architecture field and education. And then in terms of the classical architecture work, definitely looking into more adaptive reuse projects, where policy is taking place, but also building technology and just being more innovative with how we do things in the architecture field and the design process. So we'll see how I get there, but you can check in on me at forum.
So we'll start with Nicole on this. Have your goals in terms of your future and now what you're looking for post officer position, has that changed from, I mean, you had literally graduated, like 2 months before you moved to, a month before you moved to DC and started work at AIAS. So have your future goals changed from sort of what you were thinking as you were getting ready to graduate to now?
I don't think it changed dramatically, partially due to the fact that I worked with nonprofits my entire architecture school, almost every single year, God bless. So to transition into a nonprofit after my graduation, just kind of made sense what people told me. So if anything, it reaffirmed what my goals were and where I wanted to be. So I wouldn't say change, but definitely catapulted me into okay, this is real, this is legit. There's no question about it. So there was a lot more confidence that came within even a month of being in this position, thankfully.
Cooper, how about you?
Would you mind repeating the question?
Sure. Would you like me to? I feel like it's like the spelling bee. I can use the words in a sentence.
Country of origin, if you can.
So you graduated about, I think, in December of 21, was it? And you started as president in July of 22. So when you graduated, I'm sure that you had some idea of kind of, after being president, what you wanted to do professionally. Has that goal, have those goals changed from then to now as you're getting ready to end your term as president and head into the real world, so to speak?
Yeah, I think in some ways, I think that my goals were never really like tied to many specifics. They were like, do good things for the community. And they were never like, design a building that's all made out of mushrooms, which is a very cool goal. And I would like to do that someday. But I think that my goals were much more kind of general about the things I would like to be doing and the spaces I'd like to work in. But I think that in some ways they've changed. Absolutely. I mean, I had always wondered if I would like a representative role, like serving as an elected representative, and turns out I really have. So I think, looking for more things like that, whether it's within the Architectural Alliance in the AIA or outside of it in like local governments or something, I think that my goals have definitely, I wouldn't say changed, but adapted maybe, to kind of suit the things that I've learned about myself and what I like to do this year.
Yeah, I think that that's only natural, obviously. And you both have had the opportunity to be exposed to so many different things and people and experiences that it's only natural that they would adapt. And the truth is, they'll probably adapt throughout your life. Because I mean, I think that my goals are still changing from time to time. To a person that is listening to this interview that is thinking or hoping that maybe one day they might run for president or vice president of AIAS, what would you tell them? And I guess, Cooper, you're up first.
I think for me, it's a pretty easy, I would tell them to do it. I think that, the nice thing about the AIS, one of the many nice things, is that we are this kind of, relatively little flexible organization. And, you don't need to spend years building up a resume and, spend half of your life doing things to prepare you to take this job. You can just do it like we did as soon as you graduate from college, which I think is very nice. So I would say do it. It's a tremendous learning opportunity. The places you go and the people you meet. I don't mean to sound like a Dr. Seuss book, but it's really just phenomenal as an experience, and such a great opportunity to grow and learn about yourself. So I would say absolutely jump on it, run for it, do it. If you don't get it the first time, run again until you can't anymore.
Nicole?
Yeah, definitely a plus one to that. I ran until I couldn't anymore, and here I am. Maybe I'll share advice that I received that made me do it all these years, which is that the world just needs more of us. There just needs more diversity, more voices that come from different backgrounds, that ask different questions, that speak differently, that think differently, and AIS is included in that. And yeah, the more diverse opinions, the more backgrounds we have and can have in our leadership roles is so vital to the organization continuing on. So yeah, keep running until you can, and we'll see where you land.
I definitely agree with what both of you have said. I think that obviously, particularly the president and vice president, it's real work. I mean, it's different than most boards where really what the president and vice president do for boards is just preside over meetings and do those types of things. And in some associations, they cut ribbons and do things, but that's really it. I mean, this is significant work. And I think that what AIS and the world needs are passionate people. And I think that this association has really thrived because the students who have served on the board and the students who have been the president and vice president have cared about AIS and the future of architecture. So I think that the organization and ultimately I think society is benefited by that. So, all right, final question. What will be your fondest memory of your year? Nicole?
I was thinking to make a joke and say it's going to be a roll call of Council of Presidents, which definitely will be a good memory. But it'll probably be grassroots. We haven't had it yet, but I'm really excited for the lineup we have, with the sessions we have, with all the outgoing and incoming board members that will be in attendance. It's definitely going to be a special one. So I don't know. It's going to be a little magical place that I'm excited to experience.
Cooper?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely second all of that. And it's hard to pick a moment, I guess, just one. So I guess I'll go with it's just like a feeling that's recurred at various times during the year. That I kind of associated for whatever reason with the conference room at the old office in the AIA building, which was just like a space that we would all just sit in and have meetings in and eat lunch in. And there's a big window, and outside there's a plaza with a big beautiful tree and a lovely building, the Octagon, and it was just a space that kind of got me thinking, and I remember it very fondly, just sitting there every now and then and having the thought of like, holy heck, we're doing it. Like, we're here, we're in these positions doing these things, and it was just nice. Things were good.
Well, that is definitely a huge memory for me too. And I know that obviously the AIA building, when we get to move back in there in a couple of years, will be very different. I mean, both architecturally, and we'll be on a different floor and all of that, but I certainly hope that, that spirit still is there. So thank you both for this conversation, but obviously thank you both for what you give into AIS this last year. I'm not going to get emotional now, but you both have given so much to the organization, and the organization and all of us on staff have been tremendously fortunate to have worked with you. I feel like the three of us have kind of grown up together this year, because really the two of you had one full year that I got to have as executive director, whereas I only had a couple of months with Shannon and Scott. So it's crazy to think that the whole thing starts over again for me. But thank you. You both have really done a great job. I've said this before, but you are both what AIS needed this year, as we kind of moved from the crisis mode of pandemic and everything shutting down, and lack of staff capacity, to the amazing place that we are in now. So thank you. I know that the organization owes you both a tremendous amount of thanks, and certainly at least some of that will happen at grassroots. So thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, let's end this recording.